This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. Grief, anger, and outrage. Chinese citizens are up in arms over the rising spread of the deadly coronavirus. The death toll in China is now more than 900, making the outbreak worse than the SARS virus. What answers are the Chinese people demanding from the communist government? Gary Lane has the volatile story.
In China, grief and outrage are growing over the coronavirus. Chinese citizens are demanding answers from the communist government after a young doctor who warned about the coronavirus died from the disease. In late December, 34-year-old Li Wenliang tried to tell the government about the seriousness of the coronavirus. He died from it Friday. Before his death, Dr. Li told the New York Times, "If the officials had disclosed information about the epidemic earlier, I think it would have been a lot better. There should be more openness and transparency." His mother wants to know what happened to her son and why government officials ordered him to remain silent. She says, "My child was summoned by the Wuhan Police Bureau at midnight. He was asked to sign an admonishment notice. We won't give up if they don't give us an explanation." Appearing on the CBN News program Faith Nation, China expert Gordon Chang said he expects the coronavirus death toll to keep rising, probably into the month of May. Despite President Trump's assertion that President Xi and the Chinese government have the deadly virus under control, Chang says 5 million people left Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, before the city was placed on lockdown.
These people have been traveling around the country already, and these draconian procedures that China's put into place, they sound good, but they're far too late after the Communist Party allowed this virus to spread.
In neighboring Japan, more cases of the coronavirus are confirmed on that cruise ship quarantined in Yokohama. The total is now 136. Docked in port for 1 week, the coronavirus outbreak on the Diamond Princess is the largest outbreak of the virus outside of China, with a total of 3,700 passengers and crew quarantined on board. And in Wuhan, China, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak, health officials gave a China television reporter equipped with a GoPro camera an inside look at Wuhan Union Hospital quarantine wards. Doctors and nurses wear protective gear and work 6 hours without rest. Some wear adult diapers because they're not allowed to undress and redress to use the toilet. And because of their fatigue and the risk to health workers, robots have now joined the battle against the coronavirus. The Orion Star robots are helping doctors diagnose patients while delivering drugs and testing sheets, relieving the risk of infection in hospitals. And Dr. Tang says the Pandora's box has been opened, unleashing the disaster, fear, and illness. But there could be one thing still left in the box. That's hope. As long as hope is there, we shall overcome the difficulty. Not only is the Pandora's box open on the coronavirus, the Chinese public's anger over the government's handling of the disease has been unleashed as well, and it may have serious political consequences for the Chinese government. Gary Lane, CBN News.
People in Thailand are mourning after a deadly mass shooting killed more than 24. A Thai soldier, angry over a financial dispute with his commander, opened fire at a mall in one of the nation's 4 largest cities. The shooter began with killing the officer he argued with, then headed out toward a mall, shooting randomly along the way. 26 people were killed and 57 wounded before authorities finally shot and killed the gunman. Today, citizens and mourners laid floral tributes and messages of condolences on the ground outside. It is the nation's worst shooting spree, and the Prime Minister called it unprecedented. Israel's Air Force struck targets inside Gaza today, as Hamas and Islamic Jihad are still threatening more than 1 million Israelis with rockets and explosive balloons. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, Israel is warning these Islamic groups that the Jewish state may strike back with severe retaliation if they keep up their attacks.
At Sunday's weekly cabinet meeting, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned both Hamas and Islamic Jihad.
I
want to make it very clear, we will not accept any aggression from Gaza. Just a few weeks ago, we killed the Islamic Jihad senior commander in Gaza, and I suggest Islamic Jihad and Hamas refresh their own memory. I will not go into the details of activities and all our plans in the media, but we are ready to deliver crushing action against the terrorist organizations in Gaza.
Since the advent of the peace proposal by President Trump, Islamic Jihad and Hamas vowed resistance and retaliation.
When the Palestinian people feel the great danger that the Palestinian cause is facing because of the deal of the century and because of the American positions, it's natural and rightful of the Palestinian people to send confrontation messages to the whole world that they are fully prepared to do anything to fight for their rights, to fight for the future of their children and the future of next generations of Palestinians on this land.
Since the announcement of Trump's peace plan, over a dozen rockets and mortars have been fired into southern Israel. And that's not all. They're sending explosive devices attached to balloons that can travel up to 25 miles from Gaza. They pose a threat to civilians, especially children who might see these balloons as a toy and not understand the danger. Israeli Defense Minister Naftali Bennett met with Israel's Southern Command and promised no one would be immune from Israel's defense forces. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
More news now from Jerusalem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet on Sunday approved the relocation of hundreds of Ethiopian Jews to their biblical homeland. Netanyahu vowed to help approximately 400 Ethiopian immigrants successfully assimilate into Israeli society. Netanyahu said in the cabinet meeting, "I am proud of the fact that as Prime Minister, I have had the privilege of bringing thousands of our brothers and sisters from Ethiopia, and we intend, of course, to continue doing this." About 140,000 Ethiopian Jews are currently living in Israel today. Here at home, the nation's first presidential primary is set for New Hampshire tomorrow. The latest polling shows the top two candidates from the Iowa caucuses are also leading there, Senator Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete Buttigieg. They are working to maintain that lead and fight off their opponents who are ramping up the attacks on the two frontrunners. Buttigieg is pushing back against claims he's trying to brand himself as the next Obama. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders, who dominated there in 2016, thinks he can do it again. After South Dakota lawmakers voted to pass a bill pushing back against the transgender movement, one lawmaker in Florida is proposing legislation that would outlaw sex change procedures for children. The Florida legislature has agreed to take up a proposal put forward by State Representative Anthony Sabatini. And joining us now to talk about it is John Stemberger. He's the president of the Florida Family Policy Council. Welcome, John.
Hey, Mark. Good to see you.
Talk about State Representative Sabatini's bill. If passed, what would it do?
So what this bill does is two major things. It prohibits gender reassignment surgeries or changing a child's sex who's a minor, or it also prohibits any chemicals or procedures which would cause sterility. When you mix a puberty blocker with a hormone, that child that has permanent damage, mostly involving sterility, meaning they can't have children. We think this is very unethical and can tantamount to child abuse, and so the bill would prevent both those things.
Talk more, John, about your thoughts on transgender treatments for kids overall.
So what we're seeing is what's called rapid onset gender dysphoria. It's not actual gender dysphoria. It's social media. It's kids wanting to be cool in school. It's you say you're transgender and all of a sudden you're a rock star. And so kids are acting out in kind of crazy ways, not even knowing what they're talking about. There's some very good research, peer-reviewed research that appears in refereed journals showing that when young people who suffer from some type of confusion or fluidity, if they just go through puberty, then it all resolves and they no longer have this sense of wanting to be the opposite sex. So there's really no reason, the research is clear, that we should force a child or require a child to undergo these procedures. They're life-changing, they're radical, they're permanent. And so this bill would prevent that. It would even prevent a parent from doing that. And you know, normally we would fight for parents' rights, but there comes a time, I mean, if a parent is involved with abuse or neglect or abandonment of their child, then the state has a compelling interest in stepping in and saying, wait a second, you can't do that. And since this is such a serious procedure, this bill would prohibit doctors and parents from undergoing these procedures with their minors.
And you mentioned research. Dr. James Cantor, a clinical psychologist and sexologist based in Toronto, said clinicians should continue what's called, quote, watchful waiting, which is holding back from taking any steps to manipulate gender dysphoric children's identities, but simply observing what happens over time. From your last response, it sounds like you agree with that.
That's right. The problem is there's too much ideology and politics here from the left and the LGBT movement. There's not enough looking at the hard science and the research on this. While there's not a lot of studies, the studies that we do have show that children that just wait, really this dissipates in time. The leading clinic, Tavistock Clinic, the gender clinic in the UK, the director of that clinic just left. He said, look, this is not working. This is harmful to my patients. This guy's not an evangelical Christian. He's just saying this is harmful. They need counseling. They do not need drugs and gender reassignment surgery.
And quickly, Sabatini's legislation has been labeled anti-LGBTQ. Do you agree?
It's a ridiculous claim. We're trying to protect children. And if we as a society can't protect children from harm, whether it's from doctors or the society or even their own parents, we're in a bad situation. So this is a good bill. We're hoping that the leadership takes a look at this again in Florida and that it would possibly pass.
All right, John Stemberger, the president of the Florida Family Policy Council. Thanks for your time and your insights, John.
Thank you, Mark.
And for more political news and analysis, be sure to catch Faith Nation this evening. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. Coming up, what NASA hopes to learn from their latest mission. But before we go to break, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to Newswatch. It's a mission to understand our closest star, the sun. NASA and the European Space Agency launched a new mission to the sun Sunday night from Cape Canaveral in Florida. The mission will give us high-resolution photos of areas we've never seen before. It will provide the first pictures of the sun's poles. The solar orbiter will come within 26 million miles of the sun. That's inside the orbit of Mercury at its closest approach. And I spoke with NASA scientist Dr. Holly Gilbert to help us understand how the sun affects our lives here on Earth and beyond. NASA is launching a new mission to the sun this weekend. What is this mission going to be doing?
Solar Orbiter is going to provide us views of the sun that we've never seen before, and this will help scientists gain a better understanding of the fundamental nature of the sun. How does it create the space throughout the solar system, and how does it drive all that activity, what we call space weather? So it's a very exciting mission and unique in a couple of ways.
Mission will also give us a look at the North and South Poles for the very first time by flying in a very unusual orbit around the sun. How difficult is it to get into this unique orbit?
Yeah, so all of the planets revolve around the sun. So we're orbiting the sun and we're moving in what we call the ecliptic plane. And in order for us to get out of the ecliptic plane, it takes more energy. And Solar Orbiter is going to take advantage of Venus and Earth and do gravity assist. So as it flies by a few times, it's going to gain energy and get that pumped out of the ecliptic. And that's going to allow us to see the polar regions of the sun, which is extremely important for space weather.
Wow, fascinating. Well, the sun has seasons. I did not know that. And we are currently in a season of low activity. How will this mission help us better understand these cycles?
The sun's magnetic field drives all of that activity and really creates the different cycles. So every 11 years, the sun gets more and more active, and then it gets less active. So there are a lot of sunspots, a lot of solar storms. And in order for us to be able to forecast and understand and model this stuff, we need to see the entire sun. So Solar Orbiter will provide the entire image of the sun, giving us that information that we can use to inform our models and then forecast space weather.
Now, I understand this upcoming decade, NASA's solar activity forecast is that there's not going to be that many sunspots, and cooler weather could be on the way, maybe even a little ice age. Can you talk about that?
Sure. You know, it's really hard to even know. We still have so much to understand about how the sun works, especially inside the dynamo where stuff is turning around and creating magnetic field. We know that that has something to do with the solar cycle, but it's very difficult right now for us to really determine how low this next solar maximum will be. So some people think that it may be low, but it's really, really difficult to say. So we just have to wait and see. I'm not really anticipating a little ice age. And so again, it's just we don't have enough information and enough knowledge at this point to really predict.
Okay, well, sunglasses are not going to cut it for NASA's next generation of astronauts. How will better understanding the sun help astronauts go to the moon and beyond and put the first woman on the moon with the Artemis mission?
Yeah, so the sun's dynamic activity can impact us here at Earth. Some of these solar storms get directed at the Earth and the solar wind. We are protected at the surface from the Earth's magnetic field and the atmosphere, but astronauts, they are outside of these shields, and so they're more susceptible to all of this extra radiation and these solar storms. We need to get better information, we need to do better modeling, and Solar Orbiter will help give us that information that we need to then forecast and predict so we can protect our astronauts and also our satellites.
Where can we learn more about the Solar Orbiter mission and get launch updates?
You can go to nasa.gov/sun-earth.
Okay, simple enough. There it is on your screen, nasa.gov/sun-earth. Dr. Holly Gilbert with NASA, thank you so much for taking the time to share this important information. Once again, we have the website there, nasa.gov/sun-earth. Thanks again, and all the best to you on this new mission that's going to be orbiting the sun. Still ahead, one airline is providing training for its employees to deal with a unique issue. We're going to have that story next.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life, life to the fullest. Life in your family, life in your finances, life in your body, mind, and spirit, life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
The number of people viewing pornography on airlines is growing, according to the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. United Airlines is addressing the issue by providing training for employees to deal with the issue. I spoke with Faithwire.com's Dan Andrews for more on the story and the problem. Dan, tell us what's going on that United Airlines is actually, I understand, working to train flight attendants to help keep porn off planes?
Yeah, apparently there is a growing trend, and according to reports, that it's soaring now, and that is pornography use on planes. Obviously, everyone has their own devices now. They have iPads, they have phones, and so you don't have to rely like in the old days when there was like a couple of movie screens up on top of the plane there, and you just had to watch what was ever on the screen there. Now everybody has their own devices. They do their own things, and apparently more and more people are watching explicit material on the plane when there's families and everybody else there. And so this came to the attention of United after they were called out by a group that puts out what it calls the Dirty Dozen list. And this is a list of companies that they target that they feel aren't doing enough to combat sexual exploitation, sexual harassment in the workplace, and that sort of thing. And so United landed on the list, and they decided to address it.
Dan, what does this say about the problem of pornography in our culture?
Yeah, I think it actually speaks to the fact that it's becoming more and more accepted and normalized. I think we're all aware of the statistics that show that more and more people are viewing pornography because of the ease of access to it. You don't have to go to some, windowless concrete building now, and drive your car up and humiliate yourself to acquire that sort of content, but you can just do it with your phone. And so I think we know about that, but what is not as well known are the statistics from Barna, which show that younger generations are viewing porn as a moral choice. So not only is it increasing in use, but younger people are looking at it like, it's no big deal. So to them, it just seems like it's a acceptable activity.
How can that happen where the younger generations view pornography in this way? I mean, who's to blame? What's going on here?
Yeah, well, I think you're just seeing a slide in culture. I mean, obviously, you have the slow drip on TV. We've seen the decline of what is acceptable on television as far as sexual content and the things that we see. And it's just been pushed over and over and over again. And I think you're starting to see the effects that that's having on culture, especially these younger generations, because they grow up where it's just part of their life. They grow up connected. They grow up with all these things, and they're seeing all these images, and it's perfectly normal to them. And so I think that plus, hey, I mean, we're in a Me Too culture now, and everyone's getting accused of things. And so, that doesn't justify it, but I think it's a reason why some people might go in that direction, because it's just less hassle.
What can the church do, or what is it doing to deal with this problem?
Yeah, the church really has to address it, because I think a lot of pastors actually are unwilling to, and for a variety of reasons, but I think it can be an uncomfortable topic. But I think if you even think of your own church experience, like how often is this topic covered when we know that sexual sin is probably the most prevalent sin, an area of sin in Christians' lives, and it's not being addressed. So I think churches would just be wise to make sure this is a regular topic that's discussed.
Faithwire, I understand, actually has a course to help folks struggling with pornography.
Yeah, we did. We actually made a course. We partnered with some pastors and created a course to show and teach how he views sex and sexual sin, and to try to give people a framework and a godly perspective on how we should be viewing sex and all of those sorts of things related to that. And so we've got a ton of people that have benefited from this course. And so, this was our effort to try to equip churches and people to combat this problem that, really can't be tackled enough because it's so prevalent.
Well, tell us what's coming up on Faith versus Culture.
Yeah, well, sort of related. We're going to be talking about something that happened after the Super Bowl halftime show, when, you know, of course, there was a lot of controversy with the provocative nature of that performance, and so we're going to be talking about sexuality. Can it be empowering, or can it not be, or is it have the exact opposite effect? So we'll be discussing that and more on Faith versus Culture.
All right, Dan Andros with Faithwire.com. Thanks for your time today, Dan.
Thank you.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
A heartwarming story now out of Arlington, Texas is gaining attention. A school principal says she followed her faith after God called her to donate a kidney to a father of 3 of her students. She told the Dallas Morning News, "I'm not the type of person who hears the voice of God, but I just felt called to give him my kidney. I did not want to. It was not on my list of things to do, so I just kept thinking that someone else would give him a kidney and that it would work out. But I was the person to do it." Wow, gives you chills. The surgery happened last month and was a success. The two reunited afterward with an emotional hug. And to read the full story, just visit our website at cbnnews.com. That's going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.